Yo, this is Jay from Straight Smoke Gaming, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about some NFL draft content. So we're going to be going over 5 players on the offensive side of the ball that your team might want to consider drafting in the draft, depending if this would be a need for them. With the combine happening, there was a lot of interesting things here. We had some people not test that might have brought down their stock. We had some people not do interviews correctly with teams they didn't want to go to. So with all that being said, should be interesting here. Let's go and take a look at the first guy. Jalen Milroe. I think we're forgetting about Jalen Milroe in 2023. He actually played pretty well. Start the year in 2024, he played all right. The offense looked really good, and then he started to struggle a little bit more towards the end of the season. But when you're taking a look at Milroe as a prospect, he's 6'2", 225, played at Alabama, so he's got that prestige. He played against hard teams in the SEC. Average draft position sitting at a 94 right now per PFF. So that's around a third or fourth round pick, depending if he falls or goes a little bit earlier. When it comes to pros, reasons that you would want him, he's an elite athlete. He's a dual threat quarterback, got good arm talent. So he could throw the ball deep for you. That's good. You want that. You don't want a Tua because then that really limits your offense. Dual threat, he's one of the best in the game, in college at least. He's a really good runner, dynamic with the ball in his hands. You could easily drop some packages to work him in, and the same thing, elite athlete. You could probably get him to be a good quarterback. He's definitely not a day one guy. I'm not sitting here telling you that he's on the same level as Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Those guys can probably come in day one and give your team a better chance to win. Jalen Milroe is not like that, because when you take a look at some of his cons, struggles with accuracy, not really consistent in his decision making. Now, I'm not too worried about that, because those are all things that you can coach. If you get him with the right coach, you can coach that out of him. But what you can't coach is the athleticism, the dual threat, the arm talent. That's all things that, that's important to have when you do have a quarterback. Especially the way the NFL is going today, you want your quarterback to be a little bit mobile. So when you have a guy like Jalen Milroe, I don't see why you're not going to be able to coach him to what you want, especially as an offensive mind. So big thing with Milroe is to go to a team that he can sit and learn for a little bit. And hey, I think he'll be a good quarterback if that happens. If it doesn't happen, I don't see any reason why you can't drop some packages just to get him into the game as a runner. We look at what happens with Taysom Hill. He's a quarterback, tight end, running back, Swiss Army knife, whatever you want to call him. But they line him up at quarterback, and people don't know if he's running or passing. So I could see something similar to like that with Milroe if he's not a good quarterback. Next up, Jackson Dart, another quarterback. Played pretty well for Ole Miss. Ole Miss, they were blowing out some teams. Jackson Dart playing really well. But they also had some games where they lost some games they probably shouldn't have, and you could say that falls on the defense, Jackson Dart, whatever. Jackson Dart, average draft position, 108 per PFF, probably a 4th or 5th round pick, depending where he falls. Similar to Milroe in size, 6'2", 220. Like I said, played at Ole Miss, so he played some of the harder teams. He got some good looks. When you take a look at the pros, he's got good accuracy. He likes to hit receivers in stride. That's important. You don't want to have your receiver have to stop to catch the ball. So that's important. That's something that's good off the start, and he's mobile. He can move around. He's not to the same level as Milroe, but he can move around, which is what you're looking for in the NFL. That's probably more ideal as opposed to a scrambling quarterback. The ability to be able to move around, get out of the pocket if you have to, that's important with the way the NFL started to shift. When you take a look at some cons, bad footwork, inconsistent on reads, that can be coached out. Same thing here. I feel like this is a guy that if you sit him for a little bit, learn behind a good quarterback or maybe a veteran quarterback, get an offensive mind with him, I think that could work out really well for Dart in the long run. I think you could see him be a pretty good quarterback. If you throw him in day one, can't tell you how that's going to be, because there are some things that do need to be fixed, and that's just something that you need to give him time to do. But overall, Jackson Dart, I think he'll be good. He's kind of the number 3 prospect after Cam Ward and Shedeur. And honestly, if you're sitting there in the 3rd round or late 2nd round and you need a guy for the future, Like, for example, the Rams, you need someone after Stafford. I think this would be a good option, a good idea, something that you might want to think about. Next up, we have running back Amarion Hampton from North Carolina. He's a 6-foot running back, 220. I like that. That's his player comp was Ramondre Stevenson. I like Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's a good back, but he fumbles a lot. So I'm already off to that. I like that. That's good in my opinion. Average draft position 27 per PFF. Probably a first, second round pick, depending where he goes. I can honestly see him. I can see this being like another Jahmyr Gibbs situation. No one expected Gibbs to go up there. He had a pretty good combine, and he ends up sliding in to a much earlier pick than what we initially thought. Mario Hampton had a really good combine, ran really fast. I think that combine really kind of got him a little bit closer to Genty. Obviously, Genty is the best running back in college. He will be an early first-round pick. But I think Hampton kind of narrowed that gap a little bit. When you take a look at some pros, he's a dual-threat running back. You can give him the ball in short yards, pick up those hard third and one, stuff like that. You can throw the ball to him, and he's a pretty good receiving back as well. So that's what I mean by dual-threat running back. He's hard to bring down. He's a physical runner. He's not going to go down right away. You got to bring the gang tackle to get him. You're going to need multiple guys to bring him down. That's obviously something that you want in the NFL. Nothing wrong with that. I would imagine coaches would love that. And then he's good speed for his size. I mean, he's not exactly small. He's definitely a little bit bigger of a back. So the speed that he has with that size is good. I like to see that. When it comes to cons, he lacks a little bit of elusiveness. That's not really that big of a deal. You could be a power back in the NFL. I don't see any problems with that. And he's a little bit slow at finding running lanes. That could be coached. And if you put him in a better offensive situation, North Carolina, they're not really one of the premier offenses in the college football. So if he goes and has a good offensive line in the NFL and those running lanes are opened up and they're a little bit bigger than what they were in college, maybe that problem goes away. He hits holes a lot better. Who knows? That's something to talk about. I don't see anything wrong with him here. I could see him being a really good back, especially now that he's dual threat. That's big in the NFL. I mean, look at what Jahmyr Gibbs does as a dual threat back. He's a big bruiser back. He can stay out there on thirds downs, and all the problems can probably be coached out. Next up, this one, kind of a homer pick. I really like Jimmy Horn Jr. Played at Colorado, kind of the slot receiver there. Didn't really get much hype because, Travis Hunter was the main attraction there on offense with Shedeur Sanders. When you take a look at Jimmy Horn, he's 5'10", 170 on the smaller side, so probably going to limit him to a slot receiver, but I'm okay with that. You got him as a slot receiver, potentially as a kick returner, things like that. Average draft position is sitting at 205 per PFF, probably a 6th to 7th round pick. When it comes to size and lack of production in college, that's going to be big. So that's why he's sitting at a 6th or 7th round pick. But if I'm there in the draft in the late 6th round, early 7th, and Jimmy Horn's still on the board, why not take a chance? I mean, you're in the 6th, 7th round. It's a dart throw at that point. When it comes to pros, he's got really good speed, so he could take the top off of defense. That's important, especially with the way the NFL is going today. Pass-heavy league, you want guys that can take tops off the defense. Good route runner, so that's good. I mean, you could never go wrong with a good route runner. And then potential to return kicks. So when you get this guy, you're getting a potential slot receiver, and you're also getting a good special teamer. So that's just kind of an added-on pro. When it comes to cons, he's a little bit smaller. He does struggle to catch the ball sometimes, and then lack of reps outside of the slot. Now, I don't really see that as a problem because if I draft him, I'd probably want him in the slot based on his size. He's not going to go out there and be an X for you. He's not going to go up there and win jump balls. I mean, he might, but preferably you'd want him there taking the top off the defense as a slot receiver. When it comes to dropping, that's something that he could grow out of. Just needs the repetition and catching, all that type of thing. And the small aspect of things, I'm not too worried about that. We got guys like Devontae Smith. He's not exactly big. He's kind of on the skinnier side. The only difference there is that he's got a really good wingspan, so that helps him. But overall, I mean, you're in the 6th and 7th round. Why not take a chance on him? He was on a good offense. He played with Travis Hunter. He had Shador Sanders. He put up numbers too. It's not like he was some scrub. Definitely wasn't one of the focal points in offense. You weren't going to go into Colorado and be like, we got to make sure we stop him because you were all worried about Travis Hunter. But, I mean, as a slot receiver in the 6th or 7th round, why not give it a shot? I think it's worth a chance at least. And then finally, when it comes to tight end, I picked Harold Fanning Jr. As you guys know, this is a good tight end draft class. Or at least that's what a lot of people are saying. You know, you got Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland. Those are the two main guys. But when it comes to Harold Fanning Jr., he's a big tight end, 6'4", 230, put up good numbers in college. He's ranked on ESPN as the 7th best tight end prospect. I don't know how. If you just go watch some of his film in college, he was doing really well, playing really good, running good routes. When it comes to average draft possession, he's sitting at 93 per PFF. That's probably a 3rd to 4th round pick. Now, if I'm sitting there in the 3rd round and Harold Fanning's there, I'm a Rams fan. If he's there in the 3rd round, that's a guy you got to get. When it comes to pros, good size and speed. I mean, 6'4", and he's fast. That's good. And other pro is he's got really good hands, so he catches a lot of balls. That's important. He's a vertical threat. You like that. You want people to improve your offense, to make your offense. It's a whole nother weapon on offense that people might not really think of because he's got the height on you. He can go over people, and you can rely on him to get good over-the-shoulder catches too, I was reading. When it comes to the cons, didn't play against too many premier programs at Bowling Green, didn't really play too much against like the Alabamas, Penn States, things like that. Played a lot more smaller schools, so you don't see him going up against some of the better defenses in college. So that's a knock. When it comes to also other knocks is blocking. So he's not really good run blocker, but I mean, hey, like I was saying, he's a vertical threat. If you're drafting him as a receiving option, I wouldn't really worry about that. You're probably not going to stick him on the end of the line as a blocker. So that's a con, I guess. But, I mean, in the 3rd or 4th round, if you're taking him as a specific archetype of what you're looking for, I wouldn't worry too much about that. And then route running. He's not really a good route runner, but with his size and his speed, that kind of works. That kind of makes up for it. And obviously, when you get to the NFL, you know, there's obviously a lot more time to practice. You know, you're going to practice every day. That's your job. You're making a lot more money than what you did in college, unless, I mean, that's not always the case, but I mean, it's their dream. So they got more time to practice. You could obviously improve the route running. There's nothing wrong with that. You could be a better blocker, but like I was saying, if I draft him, I'd want him to be a receiving threat. I wouldn't worry about his blocking too much because I wouldn't stick him on the end of the line too much. So those are 5 prospects that I think your team should consider drafting, especially if they need a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or tight end. You know, I didn't pick really obvious names. No one really in the first, other than Amarion Hampton, because I really like him. But overall, I think we might as well give some of these guys a shot, especially if it's a need for a specific team. Go ahead and comment down below. Let me know if you want to see me do a defensive one. But when it comes to this video, that's all we got. So if you enjoyed, please remember to like and sub for more Madden content. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.